With the meeting. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Recording in progress.
Oh,
You're good.
okay. All right. So I'll officially open the meeting for the Fayston Selectboard on Wednesday, November 12th at 6 p.m. at the Robert Vassar Town Hall. I'm Chuck Martell, the chair of the Select Board, and I'd ask all of us to go around and introduce ourselves, and also in the audience when we get around there, so everybody has an idea of who everyone is, okay? So, Maddie, I'll leave it to you.
Maddie Vassar, Town Clerk and Select Board Assistant.
Langford Davidson, Chair of the Planning Commission.
Ron Graves, Select Board Member.
Mike Jordan, Select Board Member. We'll start on the end.
Cliff Guyon, Fayston resident.
Laura Guyon, same. Eliza Graves, soon to be a Fayston resident.
All right.
Freddie Graves, Fayston resident and Planning Commission member.
Don Simonini, Fayston resident.
Dolly Brown, Fayston resident.
Back here.
Suzanne Lowen Fayston.
I'm Michael Dool, I'm a Fayston resident, as well as on the Fayston Planning Commission.
Chrisanne Bauer, Fayston resident.
Claire Eagle, Fayston property owner. Gretchen Frank, Fayston resident.
David Frank, Fayston.
Lisa Belladonna, Fayston property owner.
Steve Lindsay, same.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I'll open the meeting with the first item on the agenda, which is to approve the Select Board meeting minutes of October 28th, 2025. Has everyone had a chance to read those? Any questions, comments? Do we have a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve those.
Mike?
A second.
Ron, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so those minutes are approved, and I will sign those.
Just so you know, Chuck, we do have 2 people on Zoom as well.
Oh, Paul,
Just-
yep, okay. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Chuck.
Okay, next item on the agenda is approve the Select Board budget meeting minutes, November 5th, 2025. Everyone have a chance to review those?
Did.
Yep. Any questions, comments? And a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Mike?
I'll second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so I'll sign those as well. Thank you, Maddie. Okay, any additions or deletions to the agenda for tonight?
I don't have any.
No? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to public comments other than, I think most of you are here for the land use regulations. Anyone not here for that have any public comments beside that? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the land use regulation public hearing from the Planning Commission. And as I think most of you know, the Planning Commission has been doing a lot of work on these land use regulations over the last few months, and I'd like to publicly thank them for the time and effort that they've put into it. I know many of you have attended Planning Commission meetings that they've had, and they've had at least 2, Lang, or maybe 3 that we've had public meetings.
2 like formal public comments.
Yeah, so people have had an opportunity to comment at those meetings. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is those land use regulations need to be approved by the Select Board. So part of that is that we have to have our own public hearing, and that's what we're going to be doing right now on this agenda item. So what we'd like to do is we're going to have Lang go through all of the items that the Planning Commission has put together for changes to the land use regulations. We'll save comments to the very end. And at that point in time, we'll ask that first of all, everybody will have an opportunity to make a comment. So, feel free. We'll try to limit the time of your comments to a couple of minutes. And if you are in agreement with something someone else said, if you could just say that rather than to make the process even longer. And when we get to that part, I'll let you know how we'll take the questions when Lang is done his presentation, and give you more information on that. So we'll try to keep decorum. We'll ask that people don't talk amongst themselves. If you have questions, please address them to this board. and we'll funnel the questions to the appropriate people to get answers for you. Okay, does that all make sense? All right. So with that, then, we'll ask Lang to present to you what the changes are and what the rationale is that the Planning Commission used to recommend those changes. So Lang, I'll give you the floor on that.
First, I'd like to thank the Select Board as well as the public for coming here today and taking all this so seriously. This is something the Planning Commission has been working on for some time. Some of these changes were first talked about in 2023. Many of them were talked about most of 2024, and then in 2025 we were able to refine those lists to send it to the Select Board for approval. Many of you were at our other our public meetings. For those of you who have actually looked at the documents, there are 12 revisions that that the Planning Commission has proposed to the Select Board to have revised into the land use regulations. Some of them, specifically item 1 and item 12, are addressing accessory dwelling units. The state statute changed during the Vermont Homes Act that said you can't look at accessory dwelling units any more harshly, was not the best word, but than a single family dwelling. And we, in our land use regulations, we would send people to the DRB for conditional use if you wanted to build an ADU larger than 30% of the livable square footage of your home, or 900 square feet, whichever is larger. The first revision that the Planning Commission voted on before I was actually on the Planning Commission just got rid of a provision that was created that allowed you to build up to 90% if you did a conditional use review. They chopped that off. In a subsequent conversation that the Planning Commission had about accessory dwelling units, we developed a table that allows you to build larger than that, in most cases up to 2,000 square feet. If you've looked at the documents that we presented, it's a chart that creates sort of a sliding scale. If you have less than 1,600 square foot principal dwelling, you can build a 75%, which is about 1,200 square foot, or 900, whichever is larger. Anywhere between 1,600 and 4,000 square feet, you can just build a 2,000 square foot ADU. That aligns by the state code, which you have to allow 30% or 900. We can go larger. That's what the town's allowing us to do. With a 4,000 plus square foot home, we just allow you to do 30% of your principal dwelling, state code, or 2,000, whichever is larger. To get above 2,000 square feet, you have to have a pretty large main home. So if there's nothing we can do about that, that's how the state does that. So that's the accessory dwelling unit changes. Because we removed that conditional use review in the land use regulations, we also had to remove that in each one of our zoning districts, because we used to have it in the chart, it would say conditional use review for the DRB, so we removed that. So that was item 2 on the list if you're keeping track. Item 3 of the list was a simple typo. We moved some things were moved around in land use regulations, and it's supposed to target 3.12 and it was targeting 3.11. One of them's on flammable liquid storage. It has nothing, we didn't change that at all. It was just we had to point that to a different direction. So that's going to be item 3, and item 4 is a very similar thing like that. Item 5 on our list was the DRB had asked for, when people come to the DRB to make a presentation to get conditional use on what they want to do, they have to bring a site plan, and they wanted to standardize that site plan size. So they asked us to make that a requirement. So now if you come for that DRB meeting, you need to have a 24-inch by 36-inch site plan. The 6th change was the one we talked about quite a bit. In each of our planning districts, we had a link to the New York Department of Environmental Conservation's trail standards when building bike trails. One of the members of the Planning Commission wanted to build trails on his property. He went to the land use regulations, as many people do, to try to get some guidance on what that is. The link was broken. He presented that to the Planning Commission. We said, well, what are we supposed to do? The link's broken, where does it go to? And we went into about a year of discussions about, should we send it to the Vermont Department of Natural Resources? Like, how should we do this? And how should the wording go? As many of you know, there's a should or shall debate on which way that wording should go. In the end, the Planning Commission did vote 4-1 to have shall and to push it towards the Department of Natural Resources. I'm sure many questions will happen on that one later in the meeting, so I'll leave it at that. Item 7, we didn't have a definition of trails in the land use regulations. If you're going to talk about trails, it's good to have a definition of trails. Through a number of revisions and a number of debates, we did settle on a definition of trails, which can be found in the documentation. To go along with that trail stuff, there was a question of whether or not you had to pull a permit to build trails on your own property, because that would be considered development. You know, you're moving soil, you're doing things like that. There's many things in the town of Fayston, which can be found in section 9.3 of our land use regulations, where you don't need to pull a permit. For example, if you want to log your land, you don't have to pull a permit as long as you follow the A&Rs, which is a book that's published by the state of Vermont. We added an exemption into that same section that says all the things you can do, like the maintenance of your driveway, normal things. You do not need to pull a permit for the building and rebuilding of trails. What does that mean? That means you start with nothing and you're building a trail, or you had a very large washout, the trail is completely destroyed and we're rebuilding it. Not maintenance, rebuilding. Then that's pretty much the trail stuff. Coming into item 9, there's residential building energy standards. The state of Vermont has created them, and they become a stipulation for pulling a certificate of occupancy, getting a residential building energy standard certificate. The zoning administrator brought it to our attention, so we added that into the section of the land use regulations for getting a certificate of occupancy, that you need to have that certificate on file, either if you build it yourself or if a contractor builds it. Item 10, in reviewing the land use regulations, it became clear to me that we had a restriction on the ability for people to attach campers, tents, yurts to electricity and water in Fayston. We specifically forbid it. I didn't understand why. I asked previous members of the Planning Commission why this regulation existed. I was to understand that that was not the way it was being interpreted. The way that we read it, it was interpreted that you couldn't do that. Meaning, like, if your kids wanted to have a camp out in the backyard and you wanted to run an extension cord out to the tent to put a lamp in there, you were breaking the land use regulations in Fayston. So while working with the Planning Commission, we redrafted that to allow the addition of water and power to those campers or tents or things like that, as long as it's a severable connection, not a hardwired connection. Think extension cord, hose, something like that. So that was item 10. Item 11 is the definition of lots and continuous land. One was changed, it didn't align with the other. It has a lot to do with how a road is decided. It's in the documentation. I'm more than willing to talk about that if questions, but there was just a minor change in the definition. And then item 12 is once again those ADU standards that I talked about with the chart. And that are the 12 revisions that the Planning Commission has proposed here to our select board meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you, Lang. And again, thank you for all the work that all of you have done to put this together and make these recommendations to us. We had a little discussion about how we're going to handle the next portion of this. So what we'd like to do is first ask, or I'd like to do is first ask, are there any other questions about any other the proposed changes beyond the trail discussion? I know a lot of you are here for that. Are there any other issues that you have with any other pieces of what Lang just presented? I do have one question, and it relates to the ADUs.
Okay.
The way it's worded now, it's only if you have a single-family home, you're allowed to have an ADU?
Yes.
Was there any reason why a multifamily or any other dwellings were left out, where we're trying to encourage additional housing?
So that's a tough question, and if anyone else on the PC can answer it better than I can, please make yourself known. Basically what it comes down to is an ADU there has to be a single family dwelling which is owner occupied. Now the definition of owner occupied is sort of up for debate, and that's something that the Planning Commission is going to work on during our town plan and LUR revisions. What is owner occupied? So to have an ADU, one of them has to be owner occupied. So if you have a large house and you decide to build an ADU to live in it, that's fine. You can live in the ADU and rent the big house. But the whole two-family dwelling that would bring like 3 separate structures, and that would be sort of skirting the rules.
Yeah, which one would?
There could be 2
Michael.
structures.
I've looked it up. Okay.
Yeah.
It's in the statute, 24 VSA 4412. A bylaw shall require a single-family dwelling with an accessory dwelling unit to be subject to the same review, dimensional, and other controls as required. So I think what it is part of the Vermont statute.
Okay.
That's what we try to do. We try to be in accordance with the Vermont statute.
Okay, and as I think it through now too, it'd be difficult to determine what square footage you would allow for the ADU if you've got a multifamily building, then you get into other complexities there, I would think. So maybe that's part of it as well.
Chuck, I think too, as soon as you go to 3 units, it becomes a multifamily and there are different rules for it.
Okay.
And so it could really change. There's no clear path for that without permits.
Okay.
And I think the ADU is a you have to allow it
Okay.
with a single family home.
We have to allow ADUs.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on any of the non-trail related changes? All right, so why don't we move along to that? And what I'd ask is that, a couple of things. Maddie's just pointing out to me, we got a couple of letters people have sent in, and Brian Littman's, I think I saw him come in. Brian, yep. And what I would ask, could you just summarize your letter? We'll enter it into the record. It will save me from reading all of these. And Don Simonini did the same thing. He sent a letter in. If you wouldn't mind just summarizing those. We've got a couple others that came in today, as a matter of fact. One is against the changes, and another is just offering some advice on things that we should look at from Carol. So, but anyway, Brian, could we start with you then? And I hate to put you on the spot, but you had a pretty lengthy letter that you gave us, and thank you for that. But maybe you could summarize that for us?
Sure. Do you want me to come up?
Or you can do it from there, whatever you feel more comfortable with.
Some of us can hear it and have bad hearing.
Yeah, I don't want
All right.
to be at people's backs, so maybe I can just go over here. Brian Littmans, live on Tucker Hill, and I am on the Fayston Conservation Commission, but I'm speaking here tonight solely in my own capacity as a resident that lives in Fayston. And so, to be very clear, I am in support of what the Planning Commission has proposed when it comes to revising the LURs on trails. There are a variety of reasons, and I will try to summarize those. And I don't want to take too much time, so bear with me. I think there's been a lot of questions with respect to the ANR standards. So I participate in what is the Conservation, Recreation, and Visioning Project as a member of the Fayston Conservation Commission, along with 14 other entities in the valley. And we've been looking at trails throughout the valley and how to ensure that trails can continue to be built, because it's a very important element of the valley and why people live here, and also do it in a way that's ecologically mindful. So with some of that work, we've become aware of some of the issues that are associated with trails when it comes to environmental impacts. And I support the first element, which is to not have a reference to a guideline that comes from New York, but rather to refer to the ANR recommended trail standards. There were questions about what's in that website when it comes to trail guideline standards. There's a number of things there. If you've been there, you'll see there's general guidelines. There's guidelines specific for backcountry skiing. There's guidelines specific for equestrian. There's guidelines specific for vast snowmobile. And so I spent time going through those guidelines, and some of them are from the U.S. Forest Service, and they might be longer, bigger documents. Ultimately, these are best management practices. I think the easiest example I can share with you is if you have a trail, if you're building a trail and it's on a slope, the recommended grade for that trail is going to be half the grade of the slope. It's basically sensible recommendations for building trails. I don't think it's burdensome. I don't think it's something that is very hard to understand what to do. And again, these are best management practices. One of the questions that was raised was, well, ANR is working on its own standards for trails. If you look at what ANR has said about that, they say they will be relying on documents like the Forest Service's guidelines because they are trying to put together and amass a best management practices. So this proposed change to the ANR recommended trails page, at the point that ANR comes up with its own trail guides, that would be a part of it, and it would be encapsulating the best management practices that the state of Vermont has found. And so I support that change. I think it's important for us to stay ahead of issues when it comes to trails and the impacts they may have, notably when it comes to erosion and impacts to the watershed. And these types of measures are not challenging to follow. If you look at the guides and you're talking about a single width path, really the things you're going to see are about where to site that trail. So if it's wet, route around. I think some folks have commented about how Vermonters know how to build trails. I don't dispute that, and I think a lot of what you find in this trail standards are really sensible recommendations. So I don't think anyone's going to find something in there that's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is something under a best management practice I need to do.
We gotta move
All right.
on a little bit.
Well, ultimately, I think providing that website is the sensible measure, and not requiring people to go get a permit to do this kind of work by having the exemption. And I do think we need a trail definition. When you couple all that together, I think it's a sensible measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for your letter as well. Don, you want to summarize your letter? And I want to emphasize summarize.
Sorry.
And I don't,
I'll be quick.
Okay, and it's almost, we've established a kind of point-counterpoint situation here, because I know, Don, from reading your letter, that you have some other views. But if everybody could limit the conversation after this as to, you agree with Brian, or you agree with Don, or they forgot to mention this, to make this as productive as possible. So I'll let Don present what he put in his letter, briefly.
If I can remember. I go back a long time, 72, when we bought the land, and, Gussie Graves said I'm going to quote her, said something at a meeting, a property owner should have the right to utilize their property respectfully, follow the rules, but also not be onerous, and have regulations that, in this presentation here, would require me to get the engineer over to make sure that I've got the right slope and the right this and the right that. We're talking trails on private property. And I guess I often go back to, have we had problems in the past? Now, we had some washouts back in the day up off Stagecoach Road, I think. But as I remember that litigation, what I remember from it, it was largely because the house that was being built did not follow what was presented to the DRB. And it ultimately washed out a downhill neighbor's property. You build a house, you got rules, you got topographic studies and stuff that are supposed to be followed. In that case, as I remember, the builder did not follow the rules. And we had a problem downhill with someone, the town was sued, and I don't remember the outcome of it. I really
Are you
think
listening to
we're
the
talking
Supreme Court?
about private
No,
trails.
the Fayston meeting, but
Oh, somebody's got a mute there.
Can you just
I
mute
think we're
your?
talking, in my mind, we're talking about private trails. I got trails all over our property, along with the Broskis and our neighbors to the north of us, and we enjoy them. These are walking trails. And if I were to clear those trees, the few trees we had to clear, a lot of it was logging roads, if this thing passes, I would have to go to the DRB or to the town to try to understand if I'm doing it properly. These are private walking trails, and I think this is overreach, much like in the past, we tried to put, I all respect, a conservation overlay on 65% of the town. And we finally got that knocked back, because it had no meaning, and it had no logic behind it. I believe in a landowner's property rights, respecting the neighbors, following the rules, but not to add layers of rules that are gonna cost that individual to hire, an engineering firm. And they're not cheap, I can tell you. I just went through it on something, and it's not cheap. So I think it's overreach on the part of a couple of members on the planning commission that I think are bringing some things from Utah and Colorado that may not necessarily be appropriate here. And that's why I'm very much against this.
All right, thank you, Don. As I mentioned earlier, too, there's a couple of letters that we just received today, and I just summarize, because I don't think there were any points that were brought up in these that are beyond what was just discussed. One from Karen Winchell, who is opposed to the changes, and Carol Chamberlain.
To the trail changes.
To the trail changes, yes. And then Carol Chamberlain, her letter actually just gives some suggestions as to things that the Planning Commission should be looking at. So it doesn't side one way or the other with what we're discussing tonight. So those we want to enter in the record as well. So now we'll open it up to the public.
I don't know if anyone on Zoom, if you want to ask anyone on Zoom if they wanted to talk or.
Oh, yeah. Who we got there?
Janet.
I see Paul from the Planning Commission, Janet.
No one raised their hand, but just.
Yeah, okay. If anybody on Zoom wants to ask a question, if you'd raise your hand and we'll recognize you and take your question. And so in the meantime, we'll start with the audience here. Any questions, comments? Yes?
I have one question. So I spent about 3 hours going back to the whole rigmarole from back to like 2023. And in that whole spot, this whole thing about minimus, okay? Minimus on your property. So you have people who are going to develop an area or make it part of the whole manor or rec area, whatever. So they're going to be developing to expand that. And then you have a private property owner like myself who would like to have, well, obviously there's some deer trails and things that run through our property, but we do use our property and this and that. And I guess I was trying to figure out how do you protect a homeowner like ourselves, anybody who enjoys their own property, legally, financially, whatever, who's just enjoying their property, kind of like what Don said, versus somebody who's truly going in, putting bike trails and doing other things that might connect up to the trails. Where do we stand as a smaller property owner in that respect, just to go out and be on our land? And that whole thing about this minimus thing kind of targets somebody like me who has got like less than 10 acres of land, whatever, marshy and all that fun stuff, but I do okay our property. I need that clarified, and I think if we're going to put something in our thing, I think we need to really define that part for homeowners and property owners like ourselves, that it's just going to be us, not connected to anybody else. How do you make sure people are not going, oh, look, there's a trail on this person's property, and next thing you know, they're off on your property. How do you protect yourself? People have a fairly large pieces of property. People are going on their property and doing things. I see people roll through my property all the time, which is all right, you can walk through my property. But there's other people that come through and they come rolling through on their dirt bikes, and then I see them come rolling through the cemetery on those bikes. Hello. We need some protection of smaller homeowners too, that are not, wanting to enjoy their property. And I don't know whether you can address that kind of problem that people come enjoying a property that you don't really want them to be there. You know? How do you do that?
And they can't post.
So,
Posting doesn't keep them off though, you gotta catch it still. You know, I mean, but also, it also opens up another can of worms of liability. I shouldn't be liable if somebody comes having fun on my property,
you're not.
you know, things like
If
that.
you give them permission, like the
Don,
lady that wanted to ride a horse,
Don,
you are liable.
Mr. Simonini,
Sorry.
questions are addressed to the
But, you know,
board here,
you know where I'm
please.
coming from, as a, you know, I mean, we've had that piece of property we live on for more than 40 years. Born and bred Vermont, we lived on a place in East Burke, and my grandfather bought back in the 30s at 200 acres of land. Everybody enjoyed those land, whether it was a farmer that took care of the fields and this and that. But I feel that, I'm feeling infringed upon that, whether there's changing these things, that if we do go up there and decide to put something for ourselves in there, you know, what can of worms does this open up for us?
So I guess that's the question, Lang.
Yeah, I mean, so I just want to read the definition of trail that the Planning Commission came up with, then I'm going to address your question. So our final definition was an improved traveled way established through construction for and not limited to hiking, walking, bicycling, cross-country skiing, snowmobiling, all-terrain vehicle riding, and horseback riding. Trails may be used for recreation, transportation, and other compatible purposes. It is recognized that there are a range of types of trails and paths from minimally developed through highly developed. A trail may be minimally, moderately, or highly developed, where a path is a subtype that is minimally developed. See also the definition of path in section 10. So when you talk about the deer paths.
We have paths.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is trails, not paths. So you're going from your house to your barn, or you're going to the chicken, that's a path. That's not a trail. That's, the paths that you have through the woods on your property that you didn't go out there with shovels and rakes and, rip roots out and put rocks in, and these are paths. Natural with the land, that's a path. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about trails which are established through construction. You have to go out there and build a trail. Does that make sense?
Define what the construction means.
Questions addressed to the chair, please. And you've already spoken, so I'm going to take...
Well, I have a piece of land that is crisscrossed with logging trails. I've been keeping those trails open for 40 years. I didn't build the trails. They're logging trails. I just got my property logged, and temporary bridges were put in across the streams. We applied to keep one bridge in to the state. We got approval. It's a little bridge, but it's a logging road. I haven't really improved it, but kept it open. Now, you might say, in certain places I've put in drainage where it would, across the trail as a water bar, because I've been involved with building trails for over 50 years. And at this point, it seems like if I were to say I had to put that bridge in again, I would have to apply for a permit. There's
no permits.
No permits.
It might take a machine to do that work.
Yeah.
I think then they're saying no permit, but...
Well, your silviculture that you did on your property, you didn't pull a permit to do the logging operation where they installed the bridge that you kept, right? That bridge was put in without, there was no permit involved with doing this logging practice, you followed the A&R.
Fayston's not involved, no one have to pull a permit.
What?
It's period, there's no permit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to raise my hand. Again, what you're talking about, Fayston has no interest in regulating, period. You don't need to pull a permit.
Okay.
Wendy?
Then I would ask, well, where's the definition difference then? Because that's much wider than a little path through the woods. The logging road, it's bigger, there's water bars. There's things that are constructed on it, so does that qualify as a path or a trail? It's only for us. This is what's not clear.
I think we're confusing two things. You're talking about a logging operation that you finished and was properly closed out, right? So that was closed out by the A&Rs. And now you're walking on those same logging roads that were properly closed out. You're fine. You're doing nothing wrong.
Okay.
I mean,
but maintaining a bridge or putting in a bridge that might require equipment is almost like trail building, isn't it?
well, yeah.
I mean,
That's what you just said.
no,
was
it's
put
maintenance,
rocks in,
and
pull
then
things out
maintenance
of
isn't
bed.
a problem on a logging road.
Yeah, the exemption is for the building and rebuilding, not maintenance.
Okay.
They're your trails.
Okay.
And you guys are, like, your resume for trail building and responsibility of water is second to none. I have no concerns that you're not doing things correctly on your property. This isn't about you. This is about someone who comes here and causes a muck and causes problems for everyone because they just go out there and go crazy, and the town can say, knock it off. It's not about the Bridgewater's property, and you have a closed out logging job that's all been closed out properly for the A&Rs. You're walking on those old logging roads that are now your trails, and you're maintaining them the way you see fit. We're not coming after you. No one's coming after you.
Okay. Yes,
So are these?
Lisa.
Hi.
Hi. Didn't recognize you with the
Yeah,
mask.
sorry. Are these proposed changes for trails constructed on private land for specific public use, like vast or mountain bike trails, or are these proposed changes for anyone building any trails on private property?
So all of the zoning districts only apply to outdoor recreational facilities. You shall build trails to these standards in outdoor recreational facilities. That's the only place that specifically is talking about that. I don't think anyone in this bill, maybe I don't know. Outdoor recreational facilities are basically a piece of property with no house. Maybe you have a tent platform on it. Maybe you have a yurt. It's an outdoor recreational facility. That is not, if you have a single family home on a property you don't have, or a multifamily, we do need to change that definition. We are going to change that definition in our LUR revisions. That's not an outdoor recreation facility. That's in each zoning district. That's all that change 6 is. However, the exemption for not having to pull a permit to build trails does affect all property. That exemption saying you do not need to pull a permit to build and rebuild trails. That is
As long as you follow the proposed guidelines.
to build and rebuild, yes. As long as you follow the proposed guidelines from and as Brian talked about, there are some work the state is working, and they are going to publish those same things on that same place. We're sending them to a link that is going to grow as they come up with the new guidelines. Like we're future-proofing our LURs. We went through, this has been a year and a half to change a simple target for where you go to find out how to build trails. Like we're trying to future-proof our LURs. But yes, that would affect regardless. But there's a lot of other permits that are involved. Like when you start pulling, this is just a small piece of it. Depending on the project, like, if Sugar Bush wants to put a lift in, they have to pull an Act 250 permit. That's totally different. Sorry.
That answer your question, Lisa?
Sort of.
Okay.
So private landowners are still regulated by these guidelines when building trails on their own property that no one else but the landowner will use.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
The guidelines that are being proposed, while they do apply to everybody, longtime property owners and new property owners and everybody, it might seem onerous to people who've been doing it for generations, who've been managing things well. And they're not the people that we have to worry about. And I think it's somebody coming in who does not understand how to do it right. and who don't have to adhere to any kind of guidelines. If, you know, these are for those people. And it's also, another thing that I would add to what Brian said was that we're having these extreme weather events we've never seen before. And if the trail's washed out someplace that's, you know, and it needs to be rebuilt, it's probably for a good reason. That, you know, it needs to be, you need to look at the whole big picture and make sure that it's being done in a way that's not going to do damage to the river and, you know, the downhill neighbors. I mean, we all live downstream, right, from somebody. So, I mean, it's for the common good, and it might be inconvenient and feel like, you know, people are sort of imposing their opinions and trying to control what people do on their property, but, you know, it's really for the common good. And these are not onerous provisions. They don't seem to be. They seem pretty reasonable and consistent with what's already, you know, the state is asking us to do. So I fully support. I really appreciate the work. It seems like some compromises have been come to in this process. I've been hearing about it, and, you know, appreciate all the time everyone's put into it. I hope that we can move forward and improve.
Okay, thank you. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I have a couple things to say, Chuck.
Yep.
Okay. To address your question here, Mr. Bridgewater, our current LURs specifically state forestry activities shall meet all applicable state regulations and that shall as a minimum comply with acceptable management practices for maintaining water quality and logging jobs in Vermont, published by the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation. A town permit is not required. Okay, that's what's in there today. And I've read extensively the AMPs, it's a 60-something page document. And in there's very clear guidelines on what truck roads are and roads. And so if you're, to answer your question, because we've got the same issues,
Right.
okay, we talked to Rick Dwyer, and our understanding is as long as we're following those guidelines that are in the AMP, Central Management Practices, we're good. So to address your question, if the forester who's working your job, representing the state, and you're following those regulations, his satisfaction, you're good. And the stuff that we're talking about doesn't affect you.
Right, but if you're connecting a trail between the two.
But
If
you're
you're making
constructing
one-
a trail.
If you're making a trail.
If you're constructing a trail, okay, if you're
Still
constructing a
driving.
new trail, that's not a
Is it
logging.
a path, is it for us to just use and maybe ski on, and, or is it a trail?
Are you
And does it require-
cutting anything? Are you moving any earth?
This is what's,
That's
That's the thing.
if you're getting in with an excavator, you're moving dirt, and you're making cuts and stuff, you probably want to follow some standards. So, but if you're just having that's why we did the definition of trails, because we had public feedback during one of our meetings that we weren't clear. We accepted that. So we articulated what a trail is, and we actually went back and forth to actually get very, very prescriptive about what is construction, what is earth moving, and all this kind of stuff. And we backed off to what we have now, which is a path, is a simple primitive path, which is what most of us have as we walk around and explore our properties. But a trail is something that's constructed typically with, if not earth moving equipment, certainly hand tools that are moving dirt and moving rocks and things like that. The other thing I'd like to say is that the original land use regulation, before we even touched this, our toes stumbled on this boulder, was that it said bicycle trails shall be constructed. And we said, well, why is it just bicycle trails? So then we started talking, we talked to the bike club here, Mad River Riders, and we also wanted to make sure, because a lot of people say we've been building trails for years, why do we need these new standards? So we talked to the VAST people, and the VAST people says, yeah, we're following these guidelines. And if you go back to the A&R website, it'll specifically say snowmobile trails need to be constructed to VAST standards. It actually, so they write the standards. The same with the mountain bike people. They write the standards, Bob's was okay with it. He said, you're not asking us to do anything different. And to address the gentleman's comment about we haven't had problems, well, the trails are washing out. I know they've had to redo trail work on the bike trails up on the far side of 17, the south side of 17. They've had to redo the trails. And I know there's trails that are on this side of Fayston that also have got some troubles that need to be worked on periodically. So constructing the trails to what the bike people have already established are good. They've identified through trial and error and through working with other people's experiences, they've come up with some decent standards. And so now they're just trying to make them more common because they know they work. They're proven standards, they're best proven practices. So that's the bikes. The vast people are okay with it. We did not talk to the ski people, but we did not, other than the public comment stuff. But, and in terms of your question about the public access, there's a very clear law that says as long as you're not charging for recreation on your property, you cannot be held liable. And that helps people to allow like vast trails to go and snowmobile trails to go across their property. You cannot be as a landlord held liable unless you do something egregious, like for example, put a guy wire across that somebody hits, or a trap, or something really nasty. But as long as you're just saying, have at it, enjoy it, and don't do anything nasty to stop them, you cannot be held liable. Okay?
All right, thank you, Mike. Then can you hold that thought? Let me just see if there anyone else, because you've already had the floor for a couple minutes. We'll go to Freddie, but hold the thought and we'll come back to you, okay?
I can.
Wait a minute. I didn't want to make this difficult.
I've got a piece of paper.
Freddie?
So I'm the lone dissenting planning commission member, as I'm sure most people know. But the reasons I don't support this is I don't understand the desire to regulate trails on private land. We've never required a permit. Jason is the first zoning administrator to read our rules as requiring a permit because of the way it says accessory to a single-family dwelling. And I've spoken to the last 3 ZAs and the people that wrote the last land use regs, and that was not the intent, nor did anyone else ever read it that way. Accessory to, next to, right, was what they meant. We've never had a problem, and we've never had anyone apply for a permit for trails currently. The state is writing recommendations, the Department of Parks, Forest, and Rec, and they anticipate the release of those by the end of the year, June at the latest. And we want to, in most of the things we do, comply or be similar to what other towns are doing. And Waitsfield is pretty specific, and theirs is, no zoning permit will be required for the following. And lots of things that are there. And that says clearing and associated site improvements for recreation trails, provided such trails are not surfaced with impervious materials and not used as part of a commercial facility. And so I thought that was quite telling. And then there's been a Supreme Court case. It started out in Superior Court, and they deemed that the Vermont Supreme Court reasoned that the purpose of zoning is to manage municipal and regional growth, not incidental recreational activities of private property owners. And Vermont law encourages landowners to make their land open to the public for non-commercial recreational use. And they went on in conclusion and they said this was for a bridge that was put in for bike trails. And the town gave a permit, and the neighbors didn't like that, so they took it to court, and the Supreme Court said actually the town didn't have the right because it was de minimis use. And what they said is it's not subject to regulation under the
land use regs or road ordinance, as it is de minimis recreational use of private property. So it was then appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, sorry to go through all this, agreed. And they said the exact same thing. The purpose and goal of zoning is to encourage the appropriate development of all lands in the state and to manage organized municipal and regional growth and development. Articulate more specific goals, including promoting public health and recreational opportunities. And accordingly, in interpreting the zoning ordinances, this court has held the primary purpose of zoning is to manage municipal and regional growth and development in an organized fashion, not to regulate the incidental recreational activities of private property owners. So, for me, it feels like overreach, and I think we could end up in court.
Okay.
So I do not support it, and I think it's eroding private property rights and not land.
Okay.
It was a joke.
Any other comments?
For me?
Oh. Well, we can come back to you later.
No, I don't have any more to say
Steve?
right now.
I think the guidance that whoever's trying to develop this is a good thing on any public trail. Now, a public trail is used by the bikers, hikers, whatever, when they cross their property, excuse me, or anybody's property. And that has to come with permission. Otherwise, well, it should come with permission. Let's say this. It should come with permission.
That's proper, yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle.
It doesn't have to. People can cross their property whenever they want, without permission. And they're not trespassing. But at any rate, you would have to give permission to do a public use of your property. And that would be appropriate in that circumstance. But when you get down to the private level, I don't see where it applies at all. I think it's a joke. It shouldn't even be there. I agree with everybody. It's just infringement upon your rights. But if you give somebody permission to cross one end and do some kind of trail, then it will count.
Okay.
Actually,
Thank
Supreme
you.
Court says it doesn't.
Pardon?
This incident was a bike group
Yes.
was using this land, and the state said it's not. De minimis use.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else? David, did you have something?
Yeah, just quickly, if I could provide some clarification. Steve, this is Steve? Michael. Oh, Michael, I'm sorry. Michael, the washing out of the trails that you're referring to, so I'm an fairly extensive mountain biker, and I have mountain biked when it's been raining out, but not for days on end where, you know, it really starts to abrade the trail. But the washouts you're referring to were very specifically stream and gully crossings to the trails, not because of the actual construction of the trails. And to that, because I do bike, sometimes get caught in the rain, and since this whole, regulation became so forefront, I started observing when I was caught in the rain, and there's a number of trails that aren't, public use, and without naming where they are and whatnot. They're not built by any, they weren't built specific to standards, but I'm sure they're probably close to or within it. What I observed was that, because of the way that you have to gain elevation and with the switchbacks, I couldn't find any trails that continued the water runoff beyond one or potentially two segments of the switchback. So with the exception of when you come close to like a county or county road, like Baden Hill Road, where maybe that last two switchbacks pours into Dayton Hill Road, I really didn't see, I have not yet to find any real, true infraction. Now, if this was a, you know, an ATV trail or something of, you know, a larger consequence, or potential consequence, you know, I can see some justification in it, but, you know, I personally see that it is, and not from the onerous standpoint, but from the actual practical necessity of it. And if I were to make any recommendation, maybe revisit it to something where it may, or there is something historical that directly affects, you know, streams and you know, environment in some way. Otherwise, it's really critical to our, you know, our community for recreation. So I think it's a, you know, good deterrent. Anyhow, that's my.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Yes, Liza?
Maybe I'm not wrapping my head around it. If it's a commercial property, like a recreation facility where people are paying, you would need a permit.
I believe
In the
that.
town.
No, there's no permits. There's no permits. There's no permits, there's no.
So if there's no permit, who is making sure that they're built to standard? Because if it's a bike trail or bike group, they have their own standards and they're likely gonna do that. If it's a private resident, who's gonna keep me up to par? Like, who's keeping track of who's putting compost in their garbage right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to create an enforcement agency.
So creating rules that aren't enforceable seems a little bit silly for me. So I guess I'd say I don't quite understand how it's implicated.
Oh, Sally, we haven't heard from you yet, so we'll.
All right. You finally touched on something that is a trigger for me with the word should versus shall, which comes to shall implies to me enforcement. And that implies hiring somebody to do it. It implies increases in taxes. And I don't, particularly for private land, I don't see the need or how it really gets you where you want to be, other than irritating long-time private landowners.
Okay. Let me go back to Ben before he forgets what he was going to ask.
I think that was covered, but I think what's going to happen if this does go through, that you'll see a lot of land get posted.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not your intent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from the people I've talked to, which is a lot of people up in North Fayston, that you won't be able to access that land now. You know, we'll register and do it properly, sign it every year, be after the first of the year, and that will shut off everything you're trying to create.
Okay.
And I understand, but what you have to do is then delineate between public and private.
Okay.
I mean, this is the way it is, should or shall, is an infringement on our property rights. There's no way around it.
Okay. We'll hear from Wendy and then we'll get back over here.
It'll be quick because I agree with Sally that it's the should versus shall. The shall is a problem. The should is a guideline to educate rather than legislate.
I think there's an act called 117, and it says if you put in a rule that requires enforcement, which this would, that you have to hire someone to do that enforcing, or you can't put that in as a rule.
We have someone.
I'm not familiar with that.
I'm just telling you.
I'm confused about the should shall. You own an outdoor recreational facility?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, does someone own an outdoor recreational facility? Because I can only think of one and it no longer exists. So I'd love to know where this other one is.
No.
So, is there, and where is this, I mean, because the should shall thing is only for outdoor recreational facilities.
Do you have a definition for that?
No, there is no other outdoor recreation facility that's being discussed.
So where's the should, people are talking about should, shall.
I think, yeah, go ahead. Lauren.
They're talking about this, was the bicycle trails shall be constructed, and it's changed to trails in general. It's got a bigger overreach.
Yeah.
No, that's still only outdoor recreational facilities. That's all it applies to. That section, yeah.
Okay, but it's true, though, that this is asking to have the trails built to a state standard on private property. Is that correct?
That would be the exemption, which just says you don't need to pull a permit as long as you are building and rebuilding to the state standards. That's not the should, shall question. I just want to make sure.
But that's a disingenuous thing. You're saying you shall build to these standards or you have to pull a permit. That's disingenuous.
Exactly.
Don?
Couple of notes I have made. It appears to me, I spent 7 years on the planning commission, 6 or 7, that we're chasing a problem that, to my knowledge, we've not had yet. Now, maybe we've had a washout here or there, I'm not aware of it, but the enforcement issue is a big issue. Is Jason going to go out and check? He's not qualified, he's not an engineer. So as you said, that means me as an individual might have to go out and hire McCain again at a lot of cost. If you change it to should from shall, most people try to do, I believe most people try to do the right thing. I really do. And maybe I'm naive. I think it's disingenuous when I've heard some comments made about all these new people that are coming in. They don't know what they're doing. I think that's a crock. We're all new here at some point. But I've heard that was said at a meeting, and it grates on me. We're all new to Fayston. 10 years ago or 50 years ago. Some of us might have been born here. But it's disingenuous to think that most people come in recklessly. And I just think change it to should, rather than shall. And I believe most people will try to do the right thing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Well, thank you all for maintaining.
Hang on, one last.
Oh, wait a minute.
last
Just
thing.
before I was going to give a compliment, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, my tongue is bleeding. I just have to say one thing, and I'll try to keep it to what Don just said. They're land use regulations, they're not land use suggestions. And many of you who are in attendance tonight have heard me say this before in planning commission meetings. It's the point of these is to not to go in there and tell people what to do with their private property. It's to have an enforcement mechanism when something goes wrong. When your neighbor doesn't do the right thing. And that's the purpose of shall. There has to be the ability for Jason or any zoning administrator to handle situations that arise without the need for, and we talked at one of our prior planning commission meetings, without the need for getting lawyers involved. And I say that as a proud member of the Vermont Bar Association. I don't ever advocate that people get lawyers involved. There was discussion at a prior meeting about just going up and knocking on your neighbor's door and handling things amicably. Well, if your neighbor's a jerk, that's not going to work. And then what? So you're out of options. If you don't want to sue him, and he's not being a good neighbor, then he needs to hear from Jason, and Jason needs to have the ability to say, hey, look, you're in violation of the land use regulations. Regulations are laws, and without having that word shall in there, there's no point. You might as well just throw out the entire section. Yep. And so it's just And that, changing that one word, nobody's coming in there, Jason's not gonna be snooping around, seeing what people are doing, what kind of trail building they're doing, and that's absurd. And Don, it is a little bit disingenuous for you to say that you're gonna have to get McCain in there every time you wanna do any sort of improvements on your trails. You know that's not true. You know it's not. And I do appreciate you saying that after all, that we all came from someplace else. I think I'm the person that you were referencing, bringing in ideas from Utah. And so I kind of take that personally. But this has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with Utah. It has everything to do with protecting the Fayston that we all love for one reason or another. And somebody earlier referenced the changing world that we live in terms of climate. And, I've only been in Fayston for 10 years now. Many of you have much longer memories of washouts and everything. But the flooding 2 out of the last 3 years should make everybody concerned. I mean, this is an important issue. The money that Fayston is going to have to spend to recover from the flood damage is mind-bending, and it's not going to get any better. And and Lang said it well. We're trying to future-proof things here. We're not trying to be meddlesome. We're not trying to be burdensome. We're not trying to over-regulate. We're not trying to take away your property rights. We're not doing any of those things.
Yes, you are.
We're just trying to do what's right for Fayston. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. So I'll go around one more time. Wait a minute, John.
Just a comment. Tying our flooding to private trails, which is the inference from Paul, is absurd. The flooding that took place did not happen because people had some private trails. And I think drawing that link is disingenuous.
Okay. Let's not get into a tit-for-tat here.
No, he referenced
I got you. Okay, please.
But
Final comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would also say that the state, if you really have an erosion problem, if things really went badly, the town wouldn't be the ones going after the person, the state would.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The state water farm.
All right, thanks, Wendy. Ben, one last
thing.
Yeah.
To talk to Paul. You're just saying, you're counter saying, well, if shall isn't in there, we'll have to have an enforcement part of it, okay? So then, exactly what Don was talking about, you'll have to hire a professional to determine whether that started there, or above there, or above there, to come all the way down through the property. The erosion, what happened in Irene and all these storms that we've had, Paul, is the roads. They're down in the river, okay? That's what I'm trying to say now. It's not trails.
All right, thank you, Ben. Any other?
Talking about getting a lawyer.
Okay. Lang?
Instead of knocking on the door.
I just want to make something abundantly clear. The should shall is in the outdoor recreation facility. If this thing dies tonight, the LURs will stand, and it will still say bicycle trails shall be constructed using appropriate standards and practices such as outlined in the guide developed by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, and the Planning Commission is not going to come back with a should. Not, it's just going to be that. It's going to be shall. Like,
right, but that's just bicycle trails.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying that, like, that will be the end of it. Right?
I'm sorry.
One last comment.
Okay, I swear. And we are going to be looking at the LURs, and at that point, we have the opportunity to make another stab at this.
It's gonna be 2
So
or
it's
3
not
years.
like we won't be doing it, but we
Yeah,
will, yeah.
but like, this was 2 years in the process to get here.
Yeah.
We're just with the revisions, we're gonna put this in our taillights, we need to work on the town plan. We're like, we wanna put this behind us, so you're not gonna see this again for 3 years, and for those 3 years, it will be shall for bicycle trails.
For bicycle trails.
And outdoor recreational facilities.
Okay.
Ask me just a silly question real quick. Why are we using New York's guidelines? Okay, but aren't there some guidelines somewhere in the state of Vermont?
Yes. The purpose of the revision is to no longer target New York and target Vermont instead. That's what we're trying to do. But we changed it from just bicycle trails to all trails in outdoor recreational facilities. That's it. But yes, we're trying to get away from New York. That's what we're trying to do.
So it's been there and you're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We didn't create it.
Some of these things are a little, hard to decipher.
Okay, yeah.
Because it says, we're using these, I'm like, but you're trying to get rid of those.
Okay, thank you. Steve, and then Brian, and then
We
I
could
think,
get rid of the should, shall thing just by dropping the whole section. I'm in favor of that.
okay. Brian?
Yeah, I would just clarify with respect to where this came from in regards to bikes versus hiking. A lot of signs out there, the trail impacts, and what I understand the reason I support this is I'm concerned about serious trail construction. I think what most folks are doing is not applicable to impacts that we're concerned about in the community. I'm talking about serious trail construction. And when it comes to impacts, it doesn't matter whether it's a bike trail or a hiking trail, if you're building a trail, the impacts, lots of studies to this, which I submitted to the select board, that's where you see the impacts. And that is one of the reasons I support it, because I don't think this is actually going to touch upon what most folks here are saying with respect to their use of their own areas. And in fact, even if I had a simple path in my backyard, if I look at all of those guidelines, which I have, those guidelines are for serious trail building. You're not gonna, there's no significant requirements for the small trails that we're talking about that people seem to be very concerned about the impact of their own trails in their backyards. So I just offer that when it comes to significant trail construction, that's where you see the impacts, and it's not whether it's bikes or hiking, it's the construction itself. And that's why, from a perspective of trail building, I think it's appropriate to follow A&R standards.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Brian. All right, everybody feel like they've had an opportunity to express their opinions on this?
Oh, one more, no.
Yikes, I almost got away with it. Okay, so I guess it's time for us to have our discussion on what we want to do to move forward. Can I make a suggestion that maybe we could vote on, as a select board, vote on all of the items other than the trail? I don't think we've got any other questions or concerns with any of the other pieces that were proposed. Does that sound reasonable?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that other than the trail discussion of proposals, that we accept the land use regulation changes that the Planning Commission has presented to us.
So just to be clear, you're saying you're not voting on the changes to the outdoor recreation facility, which is item 6, the definition of trails, and the exemption in section 9. Those are the 3 you're not voting on right now.
The definition of trails, I don't know that we have an issue with that.
Okay, so it's...
So which,
So the definition's fine.
Yep.
Okay, you're gonna vote on that. So then it's just the exemption in section 9 that says you don't need to pull a permit to build and rebuild trails on your property.
Yeah.
Are you okay to vote on that as a group?
No, we'll hold that aside, I believe,
Hold that
because that'll be
aside.
part of the trail.
And then item 6, which is in each district, switching it from pushing to New York to pushing to Vermont. Those are the 2 items you're not voting on right now.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. So I make that proposal or motion that we accept all but the 2 that we've discussed here. We have a second?
I'd second that.
Mike? All further discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. And none opposed? Okay, so we've got those other items approved. And again, thank you for the work that you all put into that. So let's talk about the trails piece of it. We've heard a lot about the enforcement piece, or Paul at least brought up, you know, that you need some teeth to the regulations. We talked about the shall versus should. A question that I had, and it relates to the enforcement, and Lang, I'll ask the question of you, and then anybody on the Planning Commission, please respond with your own thoughts. But would there be any way of saying, changing the wording, especially in each of the individual districts, from shall to should, and then put some language in there that says something to the effect that any trails found to be causing damage to waterways or infrastructure will be required to comply with, and then the enforcement piece could come in by putting some language like that in. So you should design them to the standard.
Okay.
And then if anything does happen, you can come back and say that there's going to be some enforcement piece in there. So you're not telling people you got to do it all up front. But if we recommend that you do it and you don't, and it causes damage, then we're going to put an enforcement piece in there. Have you talked about that? Have you thought about that? Is that something we could?
It sounds like
We did mention that.
I mean, if Michael seems to be on board, I'd be on board with that. Freddie, if changing it to that?
Yeah. My question is, if someone builds to the standard and we have a weather event and it causes damage, then what? I mean, I just want to know.
Yeah.
Have you considered that?
Well,
this is just me writing stuff down on a piece of paper. Oh, God.
I don't know.
It's something to
But
think
it's
about.
just throwing the thought out there.
Determine that.
Paul's talking.
Oh, Paul?
Paul?
All right, that was me. If somebody builds to the regulations, then how can they be liable for an act of God?
Right, it's like building a town road to a standard and having a flood wash it out. You know, it's like.
But how are you going to know?
Yeah. So I know from personal experience now that the town has special exemptions on washouts like that. So you learn things with being around here for a while, but so that's a special exemption. So I don't know that the same thing would hold true for trails.
So if I'm to understand, we changed it to should, and then you want us to add a section into each one of the zoning districts that says if there is an issue, you're going to give me the actual wording. So we would do that. No, you said a lot. You have it written in front of you, and you quoted it much better than I can remember when you just said it to me.
Yeah.
So your proposal is that you're going to table that, this number 6, which is each planning district. You're going to give us some notes. And then I believe, Jason's not here, I know the process for LUR revisions. I think we can take that to our December 8th meeting. We can change that and then vote it and send it to you. And I believe you could then vote on that based on the fact that we had the public forum. But I don't want to speak out of turn to say that that's how that happens. But I think that the Planning Commission would be definitely willing to do that change for you if you feel that that's what we need.
Well, and now, so this is just me, my thoughts I put on paper, but I mean, Mike and Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, it's always been the shall for me, and then back it was just biking. So then we did we changed the shall to not just biking, but everything. You know, and we know the biking trails, you know, if they're commercial, I don't want to say commercial, but public, would be built to a standard, just like vast trails. So I'm more on the side of should, and I'd have to see how it's written. I'm definitely more on the should side than the shall.
How about that enforcement piece? So what, my notes to myself, any trails found to be causing damage to waterways or infrastructure will be required to comply with, and then some kind of wording in there that.
I just also worry that, you know, when you get two neighbors, like Paul says, you know, they're going at each other, you know, what's our exposure legally, right? We always have some exposure on any DRB decision. We know that. But do we have a way to defend this?
Fayston is in a better position if it has a strong regulation when one neighbor is claiming that the other neighbor's construction impacted their waterway infrastructure, whatever. If Fayston is in a stronger position legally, now granted, again, take this, I hate quote, I won't do air quotes. Fayston should get, talk to your town attorney, but in general, you're going to be shielded from liability if you have a tight regulation as opposed to something that is vague and open to various interpretations. So it gives the person, the transgressor, if you will, it gives the transgressor limits their way to get out of it. If you could just point specifically to the section in the land use regulation that they violated, then the town is in a much better legal position.
Chuck, one of the suggestions Carol had was in the past it was customary to have a legal review of the proposed zoning orders. And I don't know that we need that, but it is one of my concerns about, when we make these rules, you have to be able to defend them.
Yes, yeah.
Right, especially if we can limit that review to this specific change and limit our time.
All we're doing is changing the scope of what it applies to and the document it's referencing. We're not creating anything new, right? It's from bicycle trails to all trails and from New York to Vermont.
And that in itself is creating something new.
Yeah, because it's
right,
now
from bicycle trails to all trails.
Yeah,
okay, so that's where
I think that
if you look at your
I think that nobody was paying attention that it said shall. And as you heard from Brian, it doesn't matter whether it's a bicycle or a footpath or a horse or whatever, if it's done wrong, the impacts are the same. And that was, I'm familiar with the work that Brian has done with the Conservation Visioning Committee. As Chuck knows, I've sat in, I'm part of the Mad River Valley Planning District Steering Committee, and I'm very familiar with their work. And I'm not an expert, and that's why I put a lot of faith in what Brian's opinion is here and his support for what we've done. And I think if you really have a lot of concerns there, Randy, about the town being open to liability, I think, consult an attorney who's more expert in this. I'm not opposed to Chuck's idea of having an after the fact regulatory component. It's not as strong, and I think that's something that an attorney would weigh in on is what's the impact of the town saying, well, we're gonna enforce this, or we're gonna take action against the landowner after they've already done the damage. Like, we want to try to prevent them from doing the damage.
Okay.
Well, there's probably no way you can, if someone's going to do something poorly, they're going to do it poorly, right? And you're never going to have any control over that till, it proves itself bad. And then you're not going to have any control either. You're just going to have recourse.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way these things usually work.
All right.
Unless your neighbor brings in a digger. Anyway,
What I'm hearing is that you want to revise and you can take a look at it.
I think Yes, I think we need to, yep.
Thank you, Jim. I want to say that I think it's very, very important from an educational point of view that people know about these trail standards. And I think getting in these guidelines, getting this into the public in a more usable, a more accessible fashion, I think is very important. So people just know. And I think by putting them in there and saying, as you suggested, Chuck, saying, look, here's the guidelines, if you're going to build trails, here's the link, you can follow these, you're good. And I think we could put a cautionary tale in there that says something like, however, if you don't do this and you cause damage outside of your property, you may be held liable by it. And just leave it at that. It's not the town's responsibility to hold you liable.
Right.
But if someone feels they've been wronged, you don't have a leg to stand on if you didn't follow these guidelines. That's my suggestion.
Now we're going to be in a situation, Michael, where it's you may be held liable or you will be held liable. Now we're in the whole morass of shall versus should, will versus may.
Yeah, what I'm saying, Paul, is if someone feels they've been damaged, that your actions have damaged them, then like anything, if you don't have a legal defense, you don't have a very sound defense if the guidelines were to build it a certain way and you decided not to and you caused damages downstream.
Right.
But if you did follow them, look, I did the best I could at the time, and it may have been an act of God, maybe the designs aren't good or whatever, but it's, look, I did the best I could. And I think that's a good defense. In our life, we always take risks, okay? We drive on the highway knowing that there may be potential that we could have an accident, but we accept that risk. And I'm saying if you follow these guidelines, we are accepting the best engineering practices for that particular construction. That's an acceptable risk. And then I feel I can defend that. Look, I'm sorry, I follow the best guidelines, and that's, I think, what the AMPs talk about. Because when you get into forestry and law, they have learned the hard way how to preserve stream quality and erosion, prevent erosion. That's why they put them in there. And basically, you follow these, you should be good. You don't follow them, then you got to do. You could be liable. So that's my suggestion.
And you used a word which I think we've used in our meetings before, at least in some of my other meetings, like the Matter of Reliance and stuff. It's about education.
Yeah.
That's a big component of anything. Recycling, composting, whatever it is.
So could we?
Planning Commission member, that's why.
Okay.
Instead of doing this at our next meeting, would it not behoove us to wait, since the state is so close to coming out with the Department of Park?
We have
guidelines?
I think that's
120 days.
I think that's a planning commission subject.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Can I raise my hand on that?
Not yet.
As broad,
Paul, hold on a second. We got
if we
Lang,
are-
Paul, we got Lang, that's going to say something. Ron's got something to say. You'll be next in line.
I'll just very briefly,
No,
very
you'll be
briefly,
next
just
in line.
addressing what Freddie
You'll be
said.
next in line, Paul.
We're
Lang.
referring people to the A&R.
Lang,
Okay, so
we're going to have to mute you.
All right. So, yes, Freddie, we should, I think what I'm hearing from the select board is that they want us to take another shot at this and send it to them. We have 100 some odd days to do this. After that, this period of all of our public notices will expire. So I think we can table this one. They're going to give us their notes. We send it to them for their next meeting. They either vote it or they don't, and then it'll be the next revision. And that's when we'll be able to really hash it out, if that makes sense to you. Is that fair?
Yeah. Is that good with Mike and Ron?
And that's what I was going to say. I think this is a planning commission meeting subject to try to sort it out and get it something that might be acceptable to everybody, not just us, but everybody.
And I think Mike had brought up a couple of good points on wording there and everything, and I think that would be a good starting point for whatever you're going to discuss at your meeting. But I think if you come back with something like that, we're open to that, right?
I believe so.
For sure.
No objection to anything there. I just wanted just a point of clarification. As Brian reminded us, the LURs will refer people to the ANR, and the Parks and Rec folks are a division of the ANR. It's overseen by the Agency of Natural Resources. So whatever revisions that Parks and Rec come up with, we're automatically directing people there, Freddie. So there's really no reason to hit pause and wait to see what new regs or new suggestions or new whatevers the Parks and Rec people are doing, because it's covered with us saying, go look at the ANR page.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think we've all agreed that we need to move forward with this thing sooner than later. So thank you, Paula. Yes, I think that would be the next step. So Lang, if you want to do that at your next meeting, if you want any input from me, I'd be willing to talk with you about that and just gave you my thoughts. So, but I think we're walking down a path now that seems to be somewhere in the middle. It's good for most people. And what's that?
Trail. Are we walking down a path?
Or a trail, that's right. I have to look at the definition. Thank you.
So that's
still not clear.
So that's revision 6. So what about the exemption?
All right, let's go back to that again.
So that's going to be in section 9.3 underneath silviculture, which is logging not requiring a permit. The building and rebuilding of trails does not require a permit.
I don't think we need to change that, right?
No.
No, I think.
You're prepared to vote on that tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's basically, we're talking about the bicycle trail shall be to any trail, and the definition of trail, I believe, is probably accurate.
You already voted that one in.
Yeah,
So which language, which number is that one?
It's going to be item 8, the exemption of building and rebuilding trails in Fayston. And it's going to be, if you go into our land use regulations, it's going to be section 9.2. And it's going to be item number 8. And it's the building and rebuilding of trails using standards and practices found at the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources, the following website. And it puts you to the recommended trail standards where all that information will be. And that means people will not be required to pull a permit to build and rebuild trails.
Yeah, I think we'd be good with that, right? We can vote on that tonight. Right, Ron, what do you think?
The building and rebuilding trails using standards and practices found.
No, that would need to be reworded.
That what?
That would need to be reworded.
Yeah. There's not a should or shall or anything in there.
It's if you read.
Well, what it's saying is if you do follow the standards, you don't need to pull a permit, right?
That's correct.
Well, I don't think we need to pull a permit at all.
Yeah. It just makes it clear. It's the same way. Just up from there, it says forestry operations and accepted silviculture practices. If you look at subsection 4.
Is this new? Is this number 8 new or?
So this is the draft, right? So this is all the stuff that exists. We stopped here. This is one we're adding. All of these other things already exist in your land use regulations.
So this is an add?
Number 8 is an add, yes.
Why do we need that?
Wait a minute.
So it makes it crystal clear that you do not need to pull a permit to build and rebuild trails.
But it's if you follow those correct.
That implies a permit if you follow it.
It implies that you need to build to a standard.
Or you need a permit.
Or you need a permit.
And so that's a really interesting question that keeps me up at night. And then I say, well, if you don't want to log to the standards, do you then just pull a permit? I can't make heads or tails of that question. Like, what if you don't want to? What do you happen then? But I just push to the silviculture that says, if you don't want to log to the standards, can you pull a permit for logging? And you can't, because the state just comes after you. You have to do that.
That's kind of counter.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you.
Let's keep those two together for further discussion then. It gives us some time to think about it a little bit more too, and what the implications may be.
So,
And I think we have to give written recommendations back to the PC.
Okay. Okay. You can do
Not
that.
just from the,
so you give me, so you're going to give me the written recommendations on 6, which I'll then present to the planning commission, and then if you guys want to figure out how you could phrase the exemption, then give us written on that. We could work on that as well.
I think for that one, we can just start with what we've discussed tonight. You know, Mike had some wording that was a pretty good idea as well. I think you could use that to start your discussion. And in the meantime, we can talk about number 6.
I think for both, Chuck, we have to give.
If you don't need a permit, you don't need to state that it's an exemption. Just don't say it. Is that right? It's saying create an exemption for trails if the guidelines are met.
So
just don't even say it.
The top line is the following uses and structures are exempt from these regulations. No permit or approval shall be required for. That's the words that happen before that.
For trails, but then it goes on to say that you need to build it to the standard.
No approval shall be required for the building and rebuilding of trails using the standards and practices. You are correct. I'm not saying.
So it goes right back to build it to the standard.
Mm-hmm. So what are you recommending then? That we eliminate?
Put it in.
Just don't put it in.
Great.
Freddie?
What? I'm sorry.
Can you rehash your talking with other ZAs about permits and pulling trails?
So
and
Jason is
how
the
Jason interprets
first
it?
one who has read that, and I don't have my town LURs here, but where it says accessory to a single-family home.
So I'm sorry, which part?
Jason believes you need to have a permit to do trails currently. And he's the only ZA of the last 3 that has thought that way. Everyone else read it that it means adjacent to, and changing that word adjacent to or somehow another word except accessory to would be beneficial for clarity. But also the last people who wrote it did not intend that you needed a permit. And Jason is the first one who read it that way.
So, Maddie, the procedural thing that you're concerned about, and what that is what?
Just we need to make sure that the PC gets it in writing of any recommendations or changes that we're giving back to the PC.
Okay.
So they're not going to just take your words from the meeting today.
That's right.
We'll put together something.
Okay, so you and I can do that. Yeah,
Sure
okay.
can.
Yeah, okay.
That's great, thank you.
All right. So why don't we table the other one for right now as well, and we can talk about that, with regard to the permit piece of it, and see what makes sense to us. Maybe we don't do that at all, or maybe we change the wording on it, but that'd be something that we could discuss.
It's all yours, Sam.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can have it. I emailed you the PDF for the whole thing. You can have all of it.
You just want to get rid of it.
I'll just take page 170.
I don't really have a dog in the hunt. I'm just the chair of the planning commission.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get this across the finish line. The other stuff that was voted on tonight is going to make a lot of people in this town it really increases your land rates. You can now plug in RVs. There's a lot of great things that got passed tonight. What?
So we shouldn't sell my camper.
She sold her camper because she couldn't keep it at her house. So the things that we passed tonight are really great for the town of Fayston, and I thank all of you for seeing that. That's huge.
Yeah.
This trail trails thing, we will get this sorted, okay? But the other stuff, the stuff that you did vote to approve today, like, that's huge.
We
Thank you so
understand
much.
that, yeah, thank you for putting it together. Okay, Don?
Just a quick comment. What I listened to here sounds like we need a legal opinion on whatever we come up with, because it appeared to me like there were conflicting, there were implications. So whatever you all come up with, before it's brought before a public body again, I'd appreciate if we could have our town attorney, I assume we have a town attorney, someone that understands land use, to make sure that we haven't created something that's in conflict with. Because what I heard here, I didn't follow, but I'm not an attorney, so that's just a request.
Thanks for the advice. Lisa?
When's the next planning commission meeting?
December 8th.
Thank you.
Okay.
And one question too, I mean, same thing, I think we kind of had, when we decided to take the shall, leave it as shall, or take the shall out, and you brought up the whole thing about, well, what if somebody does this and it destroys somebody's land, now, it happened in my last, I mean, you know, they did whatever they did, they didn't do the best practices, but because we put it in as should and not shall, does that person who's been injured, damage-wise, have a leg to stand on if our law doesn't say shall? I mean, if you say should and this guy just does whatever, what recourse does that neighbor that gets, you know, have to cut the land down on him because we didn't say shall?
Well, that's probably something we need to talk to our attorney
That's what we're going to look at, right?
Yeah, we need some legal, it may have to stay in the shall is what I'm saying, in order for somebody, an injured party, to be able to have, have something rectified.
Okay.
So that person could say, well, it didn't say shall, so, you know.
Okay. That's a good point. All right. Are we done?
You're not.
We have a lot more.
We're not. Thank you all.
We're not done.
You're a problem, neighbor.
Who's the problem here?
There's a lot of good stuff left on this agenda.
I've been hired for 20 years.
Thank you for your time. I mean, I'll hang out. I mean, no, I'll hang out. I'm curious to write other stuff.
Ready? Want to take that back?
Oh, yes, I just,
Yeah.
okay. Because I think that was clear.
Did you see the size of the warrants tonight?
And what we have, and I think clarity is here.
First one out in November. Everybody's getting paid.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for threading the needle for us.
Okay.
Here, I just wanted to say thank you and
Thank you, Paul.
thanks and good night.
Thank you.
I never know.
Thank you.
I never know when I'm zooming how to enter the fray, and I hope I wasn't overly aggressive or terse or anything. I have a difficult time in the room because I'm not in the room. So sorry for that. All right, patience.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, bid opening for the engineering of the two box culverts. So
How many did we get?
3.
Oh, good. We each get one.
So,
Hey,
so shall we?
is this on both of them?
What?
This is an RFP for both of them?
Yes.
All of what, right? They're gonna,
Yes. So they're two separate projects because for FEMA, we need to make sure that they're billed separately, but we put them together, so ultimately we'd have
we
one.
want to add these together to make our choice.
I think you're gonna see one is like one's the cost.
Have you opened it? No.
No, we are doing the official bid opening.
It says
East
on.
Engineering, is that the guy who's doing the bridges?
Yes. So like you'll see one is the technical proposal and one's the cost proposal.
Boy, they wanted to make sure we can get this open.
I know.
So, they say right above them, this one says, cost proposal, and then the other one says engineering.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think they all.
I think all
of them
three
do
are.
that. So, you want to, Ron, since you got yours open, you want to
Well, you still can't
read
get
the
your
cost for
So East Engineering, for the cost proposal, I'm not going to read through all the scope because I'm guessing it's the same for everybody, right, that we put out there?
I guess that's, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that everybody bids to the
Is
specs.
a 10% design and 5% construction lump sum.
Which, right, I believe that's how he,
So I know we went through this with him before, so how did we,
so it's a little bit tricky because he was the only one that did the bridge.
yeah, right.
So it's
But we got
engineering
approval from
proposal that
FEMA
would
about that it was approved.
Right.
So I guess it'll be interesting to see if the other people gave actual numbers or what.
So I can tell you, I've got MSK engineers, and they are from where?
I believe Southern Vermont, from when I Googled them.
Okay,
But they have a few offices. I think they have like 3.
okay. And so they did give a dollar amount. Total cost of $67,750.
And so to D&K, they gave 46,570 for Center Fayston Road culvert and 46,570 for Sharpshooter Road.
So it's 90?
So a total of 90.
92,
I'm just looking now to make sure that they're both on here. Center Fayston Road and Sharpshooter Road, so they bid on both, and it's $67,750. So I don't know how we compare that to Tyler's though, as a
Look at
percentage.
his technical.
Might need your help. I'm just trying to find out if he had both projects on here. Honestly, I don't see, it would be in the cost proposal, right? I don't see where he's got the culverts actually listed out, like, you know, it should be specific.
Well, back to MSK here, they have offices in Burlington, but they are in Bennington as well, yeah, and West Lebanon. Yeah. So from the cost proposal, I know they're bidding on both culverts. So that was a total, and I'm looking for something here that says it followed the specs. History, project understanding, two box culverts.
It does say here the proposed culvert projects that were damaged during flooding, but it's not specific as to the culverts.
Yeah, these guys are.
Specific.
These are specific,
And
yeah.
so is Du Bois and King.
Yeah.
We don't have a clue, I mean, with the way East Engineering is doing it, we don't have a clue, like roughly what it's gonna cost. When we did the bridges, we had an idea. Right? I think
Kind.
1.2,
Kind of had an idea.
started at 1.1,
Yeah, well, it would
1.2,
be-
but we know roughly that's the,
Yeah.
and we only got one proposal.
Yeah.
Complexity. So that'll be this one.
Does he have it?
So he's saying 10% design, 5% construction. So it was a $500,000 project. He would recover $50,000.
On, so we'd have to, I mean, he doesn't suggest what it's gonna cost, does he?
No.
I mean, that's part of the question, right?
Yes.
I mean, the bridges,
Right.
Right. So we have no
basis.
Correct.
Yeah. Choice on this one.
And it could be a question, yeah, it could be a question to him to clarify.
Yeah.
Or
So to clarify MSKs as well, rereading the cost proposal, says the below table represents our engineer's opinion of probable cost. So this isn't a firm bid by any means.
Which, I reached out to Kim, just to ask, like, because I, not knowing, this was a while ago.
Right.
Just knowing, you know, because we don't have a cost, we were thinking that most of the engineers were gonna bid how like Tyler did, and she said, yeah, that's the hard part of knowing, like, you know, if we get construction, like, they might let us buy the actual culvert, where like, or another construction person might like, they wanna buy the concrete block, you know, like it could change depending on who does the actual construction, if that makes
Let's
sense.
face it, for the bridges, we only got one RFP back.
Correct.
Yes,
So, you know, then we kept the ball rolling and FEMA's good with it, right?
correct, yeah.
So that's not a definite price either?
No, it says, I'll read it again. It says the below table represents our engineer's opinion of probable cost. So it's an opinion and it's probable.
Right, because they could ask for,
And they gave it for each culvert, right?
And then underneath that, there's a breakdown for each of the, yes, for each of the
And
culverts.
what was the total again?
67,750.
So I don't know that actually, 67, what was yours, Mike?
93.
93. So I don't know, we don't know if FEMA would accept that proposal.
correct, right.
We know they would accept this one, and more than likely they would, is that a fixed, Mike?
Is lump sum.
Lump sum. They would probably approve these two, because they approved this, this approach. And that's a fixed number, which they would
Right,
approve too. But that one there, they probably
because, right, they're not gonna like
wouldn't.
changes as they go, you know, like that's,
Yeah, with work
you know,
orders.
children, right.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
kind of
just
thing.
low
And you
to
would-
then
you
do
would-
multiple work orders.
You would think if they had done FEMA work before, they would either have done it like this,
Well, yeah.
or like this.
Right.
And they do list some of the projects they've done before, and let's see what they say here. There's
He's
one in
back.
Shrewsbury. Undersized deteriorating culvert located beneath an active road. I don't see anything that says FEMA in here. Oh, here's one now. It was one of their projects that they give as a reference, Mace Hill Road in Heartland, and it says at the last sentence, assisted with all necessary permits, including local permitting, a state of Vermont stream alteration permit, a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers general permit. The project was funded by FEMA and required review and approvals by FEMA, including the development of hydraulic and hydrology analysis of the new structure.
Do we have a hydraulic study done of this yet?
Yes.
They should come now.
Yep. Well, so we had on both sites, I have them.
So he's
But-
60 or 90, right?
Yeah. They're, okay, they are closed bottom, right?
So 15%.
Yeah, it'd be 15% of 500.
Right.
Approximately.
Right, so is it a $500,000 job? How much was that culvert on German Flats? The one that we paid $7,000 toward? But it was put in by Friends of Winooski, but we knew the number, right? Was it 400? Was it?
It was in there.
I wasn't here, but it was in the paper.
It was in there somewhere, 4 to 5.
So-
But we can find that, right?
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Patty, you don't know, do you?
Of course,
You're there.
there's.
But that's actually a much bigger, because that's an open bottom.
And that's also paving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The sharpshooter one, they said might have to be.
We
open,
can't
but-
shut down,
yeah.
we can't shut down,
Center Fayston will
Sharpshooters.
probably be shut down, but they were saying that sharpshooter right can't, and so that's what, when Tyler looked at them for us before we got the H studies back, he said that was gonna be more expensive just because they probably would have had to do it
and do
at
these
partial.
people?
Yeah, do half and then
Half and half because there's no,
other egress.
yeah.
But when we get 3 bids, and his is not a dollar bid, how we're comparing apples and oranges, how would we ever decide?
I know that's what Mike said, that 15%.
Of what?
Of the cost of the culverts to equal the 60 grand, it'd have to be a $500,000 construction, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So both culverts together, if they cost $500,000 construction-wise, it would be equal to your $60,000.
But we're making that assumption.
But we don't
right?
know that,
We don't know
right?
that for
We
a
don't know.
fact. Yeah.
Well,
But I'm saying
he
that's-
gives the percentage, he does give that.
That's what I mean, but a percentage of what,
Right.
right? We don't know what the dollar
Well, I
amount
mean-
is that it will be a percentage of. I mean, I know we know him and we know his work is
No,
good.
again,
and-
yeah.
But how do we make a decision
Well,
comparing?
but we don't know, the only firm number we have is this, $90,000.
Yeah, I guess you're right, yeah,
$90,000.
yeah.
This
So-
isn't for him.
And that there could be,
And that
that
is,
sounds like time and
there's
material
no-
over there.
Oh, there's ways out in that too.
yeah.
There's what?
There's, potential for change.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a basis.
Yeah.
Like them all,
So at 90,000, what would that be?
right? We're all subject to change.
Yeah, I know. Well, essentially, this is what they're saying too here, right? That,
800,000.
it's kind of wishy-washy with all the, best guess and all of that
0.15 into that, yeah.
stuff. I don't know, what do you?
I don't know.
It would be, what would be the opposite, 15%?
Yeah,
So it
just-
would be-
just
We're really doing Tyler's work
90 by
for him, we're not,
0.15.
we
Yeah.
kind of guessed what the culverts would cost and all that other stuff, and
Right,
who knows?
626.
yeah.
I don't know how that works with something that if we
That's-
don't
that's
choose
about right,
tonight,
because
like I don't
it's
know
like-
how that works either.
I think it'd be twice.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to notify them all.
What other culvert do we have that's close to that?
I don't know. So, Chuck, you were 40,000, 45,000?
On this one?
Yeah.
67,
60.
67,750.
So he's equivalent to 446. You're 90. 100, so at 15%, the culverts for you, the break-even point, the culverts would be 446. For Mike, the culverts total would be 600,000. And if that
630.
What?
630.
630, and then, so then that's what it would equate to this, but that's not accurate.
No, I mean, it's
And
not
this
firm
is,
anyway.
this is unknown.
Right.
Well, it's
It
fixed.
is-
It's unknown, but fixed.
It is fixed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that isn't fixed. I think that one there, we can't really. Or we gotta ask them, why can't you?
Yeah, I mean, if the contingency is work orders and stuff that may come up, I think we've all seen that, right? So why would you word it this way?
I wonder if it's worth asking the FEMA rep on that one.
Or
Yeah, because we know both of these fly with
Right, that's what, right, because that's fixed and this is
their
proven.
scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know how does that work if we don't choose one tonight? So
Did we advertise that we make a decision tonight, or?
it just says opening of bids.
Opening of
I
bids,
really like
yeah.
the word.
I think in our, it says we may accept or not accept or.
Correct.
And I
Yeah.
think what we did is it's all fair, it all came open at the same time. That's the fairness in it.
Right.
Not,
And now we're just.
And then I
comparing.
think I have to, ask the questions to everybody, I'm assuming, right? Like,
Yeah, if we ask questions, we have to ask them.
yeah.
Yeah.
To all three.
I think Tyler's though, the last time.
Can
we
we-
didn't have 3 bids, so.
But we still questioned it.
No,
Yeah.
we did, yeah.
But
And-
but more from a FEMA perspective, right?
Well, because we didn't know, because there wasn't an actual number, and so we were like, how do we tell FEMA that we're accepting this bid without, like, not knowing how much it was gonna cost?
Yes.
who gave us the estimate on price on the bridge? Was it Winterset?
Yeah, but that was, again,
It wasn't,
or, yeah, or maybe
was it Tyler?
I
No, I
kind of want to think it was Winterset.
I think it was
because
Winterset, because we
we had
had.
a
Because he
rough-
came in, because he
First,
came in.
first it was
Yes.
1.1 and then it all of a sudden went to 1.2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which-
but he came to our meeting late,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and I think it was Winterset directly.
Okay, so what should I ask Tyler?
Well, Tyler, I would say, we received 3 bids, and yours is the only one not a dollar amount. We can't make a decision without having an idea of what the dollar
Right,
amount.
I think we really have to question that. I don't,
Well, then we could question
if
them
we don't
on-
have to take a vote tonight, which, do we?
No, we don't.
Then I think we should ask them about,
The wording.
if that's what they think it is, do they have a range? I mean,
Yeah.
is it 10% more, is it 15% more?
Yeah.
And then we'd have to ask FEMA, does that fly?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You good with that? So the real question is, it's a probable cost. It's their opinion of a probable cost. What does that mean?
Very big.
Right? So,
Probable.
yeah, the opinion of the probable cost is really not giving us anything firm.
This is MSK.
And then
Okay.
Tyler,
Tyler,
everyone else.
we're
did
asking
it.
for a number from Tyler
Yes.
ultimately?
He needs to give an estimate of overall project cost.
Yeah,
Estimate.
So we can evaluate what his percentage is.
yeah.
Estimate of project cost. And then nothing, no questions from Dewar?
Boy,
No, because they just gave a lump sum.
I think
Okay.
they're, yeah.
Oh,
Ultimately,
Well,
we can't compare everything because
we're
they're all,
satisfied with Du Bois' bid,
Oh, yeah.
at least understanding it.
Yep.
Yeah.
but
yeah.
just have to know if it's
Yeah.
hard to compare all 3 of them.
Engineering's funny, right? You find out because when we did that riprap on Dunbar Hill, it's a plan, you get a price and you do it. It's easy. This here is it is quite somewhat of an unknown, which is
Yeah.
why
Right, 'cause it's
Tyler probably works
conceptual.
like that because it's very fair.
Yeah,
It's probably the most fair way to do it.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
which I think is what he said when he, was explaining it about the bridges.
Right.
Is that it's been his
And,
fair way.
and the truth is, we could spend 90,000 with Du Bois, right? 67 with them, and then not argue, but have to do all kinds of changes, and what does this cost, that cost. And if this is acceptable, FEMA's paying for it, it could be.
Well, it takes
But I-
liability on us.
Yeah.
In a way,
But with
we're
the
still on the hook for
multiple-
7.5%,
But multiple
Right.
work orders, FEMA could question.
Right, so if we don't get, we don't get reimbursed for a work order, then we pay.
then
Then it
we're
becomes a
sunken. In that case, we're probably not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like, I think Tyler's covering himself, obviously,
Yeah.
but like, so that if there was changes, it's all covered under the first one instead of having multiple work orders.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where like he's not actually saying a number until we know more. So I don't know. I don't know if he'll give a number.
Yeah, well,
but-
let's see, we have to ask.
At least
Yeah.
a range.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And then we can figure out the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that work? Just that we will ask the questions and then talk about it at the next meeting, or like at a budget meeting, or?
No,
Or even-
if we get feedback from them, we'll make a decision at the next
Okay.
meeting. Because we
Yeah.
won't have questions after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they answer them.
Or if we have a budget meeting before then, we could do it at the
That's why I just didn't know if you
budget
want
meeting,
me to put it
And I'm
on.
okay, I won't be at the next board
Oh,
meeting.
that's what I
I
was
don't
wondering.
really,
We could put
you
it,
get the answers and you can
Budget.
figure it
Yeah.
out.
We could put it at the budget meeting.
Do we have a budget meeting coming up?
we have Monday and Tuesday next week.
So we could do it at the budget meeting.
If we get information back there.
Yes, yeah.
It's gonna be tough because it's the time of year.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
but hopefully,
Well, they were all
that
asking
gives
today,
us a couple of
so
shots
I'm
at it.
sure we'll hear back from them.
Okay. We good?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on to item number 7. So what I did on this is regarding the draft resolution. And do we have copies of
I
that?
read this. Did you read, Mike?
No, so what I did
Probably
was,
didn't, 'cause it was today.
I went through
Okay, I
the,
got it.
You want to hand that to Mike? Sorry, I didn't mean to pass it to you.
yeah.
Okay.
So I went through the packet that Rick Rayfield gave us of all 23
Yeah.
of the solutions. And
Yep.
I think it was with the very last one, Essex, town of Essex had one that sounded really non-political to me and got to the point of what we were really talking about. So I made a few modifications to that one. They have a police department, and they reference the police department. They had a resolution for inclusion like we did. So I just changed their wording that they had in their inclusion to our wording. So I thought if
It's
we're
very
gonna meet
similar
with-
to what we,
What's that?
it's, right, this is similar to what you guys did back in 20.
Yes,
22.
exactly. So what I wanted to do is just get it to you two. So if we can send it out to the group that was going to be at the next meeting and say, this is our working document, we'll talk about it at the next meeting. If it's acceptable to you.
This sounded appropriate to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way, way appropriate. It doesn't, about law enforcement, it didn't sound political. It sounded just, by the Constitution, but which is what
Treating-
we're
And it's
for.
funny going through a lot of those different ones. The ones that were pared down seem to be more of the ones that were kind of focused in on what we were discussing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
I-
if you're okay with it, we'll send this out as our working document to the group that was here.
Yep.
And they'll
Yep.
be at the next meeting. We can discuss it with them and then vote on it at the next meeting and,
Yep,
okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
sounds great.
I will
okay.
send this out to her.
All right. Any other business? Any other business? Please say no.
No, but I will tell you on other business. So I did get a bill from McCain.
Okay.
And it commingled the flagging in with some of the LiDAR work that they've done. And I reminded them that, so I have them do a separate bill, but I also reminded them that I asked for a budget on the LiDAR to run by it. But they have done some LiDAR work, which I didn't really approve. They know it.
Okay.
But I think they'll be fair.
Yeah.
We just want to let everyone know what we're actually doing before we do it. What is this?
Okay, so we are for the.
So because it is the first meeting after November, it is all the appropriations that were approved at town meeting in March.
Do people actually send letter asking for all those?
Yes, that's all the people that we're asking right now
Because-
for.
I thought we put some in that didn't ask, and we just said, oh, they will ask? Or did
So
we-
no, this is for last year's, or this year's. Like, you had asked for everyone to have the balance sheet and everything going
Okay.
forward for this year. This is for
Okay,
so that'll be for 2026. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So we are now reading the mail, signing the warrants.
Where's the register?
You have mail.
Oh, we have mail, you have, oh, I have mail.
No, I think you have to take that whole thing off.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but isn't there usually a register over there?
What is a movie by that name? Do you have a name? It's getting late.
Getting delusional.
I'm liable to say anything.
So just so we have it on the record though, should we say if we hear back from the engineering firms, we'll put it on the Tuesday, the 18th meeting?
Yep.
Just that gives extra day instead of the Monday one?
Yeah.
Just so that
See, we made our deposit on the school tax.
school, yeah. Sarah's like, don't mail that one, I'm gonna hand deliver.
Sorry. What's this, without me going through this, Matty, the 40,000 to Mad River Valley something?
Mad River Valley Planning District, maybe?
Mad River Valley RE
Rec?
Rec District?
Oh,
Yeah,
rec
that's what it is,
Yeah,
yeah.
rec.
Yep. Monthly rent on the bridge.
Share the mail with you, there's no really news here, it's about that new substation that they're
Yeah.
having a hearing on.
Payments to individuals, payment back for taxes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, so overpayment.
And you're gonna keep
You know,
track.
if people, you know, were worried about homestead or their mortgage company, people, you know, will pay ahead of time.
Yeah.
You wanna keep these, keep with the minutes?
Yeah, I didn't through any of this, just looked at the numbers. Oh, yeah, this is, somehow I have information, maybe we got it last year, of the map of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh,
You have
yeah,
that behind RK Miles?
Yeah.
yeah.
They're
What's the
replacing,
story with the substation? Because I got the same mail you guys got about the substation.
Yeah.
they're making one across the street temporary.
No, they're moving it further toward,
But they're making a temporary one
they're
first.
making a temporary substation, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
To be able to fix the current one, correct?
Or make it bigger,
Or, you know.
yeah.
yeah. Do you want to
I
see
got
this?
two pieces of mail
Do
on
you
that
want to see
one.
this?
What's
I
that?
got two
What?
pieces, I got an
Oh, you-
email
oh,
and
yeah.
two pieces of mail.
To the PC?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Chuck, you can't leave yet, you have to make a motion to.
Oh,
adjourn.
yeah, no, I'm not anxious, but I'm just packing up because I still have to.
making me nervous.
I still have to sign the warrant too.
Thought you were out of here.
I'm going to try to slide out to the door.
I understand.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. But I know you would never let me do that.
No.
Get back here.
There you go.
All right. Around. Thank you. Yeah, that's an important part of the whole thing here. Oh, man, there's a big one this time, huh?
Yeah. Then the one in June goes to the state, right? First one goes to the district.
Arrowwood, that's the Conservation Commission
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah. Winterset, $5,000 a month?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man.
I did the same thing. It's easy.
We're in the wrong business. We should be renting bridges.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
So like,
Recording stopped.